Welcome, everybody, to the latest episode of True Believers here on the Fandom Podcast Network. Of course, True Believers is our show that covers all things in the MCU. This week, we are continuing our coverage of Secret Invasion. Now, I can't do spy antics, I can't hunt aliens, I can't try to stop government conspiracies without my top-notch co-host. And of course, he is the co-founder of the Fandom Podcast Network, my scroller from another mother, Mr. Kevin Reitzel.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm on my phone. I'm super scrolling.
As long as you're not talking to Rhodey, we're good.
What's up, buddy?
Oh, not too much. We are just getting ready to talk a little bit of Secret Invasion as we're diving into episode 4 and heading towards the end of the run of this 6-episode series.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, no, there's definitely some spoiler alerts, but first we got a little things to talk about, Kevin, because there's a little bit of news. So let's talk a little MCU news. It's time for Snit, Thwip, and Kapow. Let's get to some MCU news. Kevin, Bob Iger has spoken. Of course, it is a very interesting time in Hollywood right now. We've got the writer's strike that's been going on, and then the actor strike that is going on. Plus, Iger has been trying to kind of course correct what's been going on at Disney for the last few years after his retirement. In a recent article, Iger was quoted as saying a couple of things. It was earlier this year that Iger discussed Disney's plan to cut back on costs, and Iger said, "You pull back not just to focus, but also as part of our cost containment initiative, spending less on what we make and making less." He then went on to discuss Marvel and the MCU specifically. Marvel is a great example of that. It had not been in the television business at any significant level, and not only did they increase their movie output, but they ended up making a number of TV series. Frankly, it diluted focus and attention, Iger said in a brutally honest admission. Now, Kevin, this is a pretty big statement coming from Iger himself. We've seen this kind of being cutbacks happening, and I think both Iger and Kevin Feige are on board with this because I think they've been going for getting back to a quality, quality instead of quantity approach. But this is still a pretty bold statement from the CEO of the company.
Yeah, to summarize, Disney CEO blames too many Marvel Disney Plus shows for weakening audience focus and attention. And I think he said that with the recent box office disappointment, what is it, including Elementals, Indiana Jones, Dial of Destiny. I don't know specifically if he's referring to just Disney properties in general, but it looks like that the focus on streaming has diluted people's interest due to the overwhelming amount of movies and shows. So does that mean, is he saying the lack of box office is because less people are wanting to go to the movies because there's so much out on Disney Plus? I think that's what he's saying, is that there's too much stuff coming out and it's getting hard to keep track of, and thus people aren't jumping to the theaters to see the big new development in the Marvel universe, I guess is what I'm saying.
I think there's that, and I think it has been a thing of that he feels like because there's been so much on Disney Plus, and Marvel wasn't really meant to be in he doesn't feel Marvel was meant to be in the TV business either. So I think it's a combination of a couple of things here, at least from what Iger is saying. Is one, a lot of people have said there's been too much on Disney Plus, and I actually agree with that. I think that they rushed out a lot of shows to get content onto Disney Plus because of COVID, and then because Bob Chapek really wanted to have as much on Disney Plus as possible. And I think shows, especially on the Marvel end, have been rushed and not as thoroughly been made to be the quality that we've expected from Marvel over the years. And so we've had this state now where I think I agree with Iger. People are losing interest, and it's too much. He's over diluted the product. And I know he also was talking about that with Star Wars. He made some comments about Pixar, how it was probably a mistake to send their last couple of movies straight to Disney Plus before this Elementals came out. And that, but also that Pixar's had a couple of misses on their creative end as well. But I think Iger is looking to try to get less out from Disney, but better quality out of Disney, and try to get people back in the box office?
I think the better quality part falls in, because I shared this on my Facebook page, and I said I believe that there is truth in this when it says Disney CEO blames too many Marvel Disney Plus shows for weakening the audience focus and attention. But and I got a lot of comments on that, and a lot of the comments were, yeah, well, it's not that it was just too much. It's a combination of the writing wasn't good, the development of them wasn't good, and that includes some of the movies too that came out. And I got comments like, I've been burnt out years ago. It's too much to keep track of. It peaked. Like my friend Oscar says, it peaked before they brought in the last couple superheroes to the Avengers finale, but now it's way overboard now. My friend Cheryl says, yeah, I haven't been able to keep up. And Michael Morris said, it's not the quantity, it's the lack of quality. And I had some people comment on that as well. And, or maybe it's the quantity and the lack of quality in them, a little bit of both there. So, a lot of people are blaming the writing as well, not just too much. So I don't know. It's interesting too. When you were reading this, bringing this up, something brought to my mind was, Kyle, when you count all of the Marvel products going up to Avengers Endgame, and maybe ending with Spider-Man, Far From Home, because that was kind of like one of the last films.
Epilogue kind of thing. That's what
it was the last movie of Phase 4, right?
Phase 3.
Phase 3. I'm sorry, Phase 3. So, you had people coming back from the blip and all that kind of stuff, right? So, but if you look back at all of these so-called possible least fan favorites, you could probably pick Thor: The Dark World. A lot of people say Iron Man 3, despite what I think about that. And what else?
Iron Man 2, I think it's a little, because Iron Man 2 was also rushed out for reasons.
Out of 20 something movies, was there another film that kind of went, eh?
For some, yes, for some, no. But I mean, I think out of 20 some odd movies, there's probably 5 films I hear people go, eh, about.
But if you look at all the films released after that, I know you could probably throw in Captain Marvel, even though I disagree, but
I think some people would throw in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2.
Possibly, yeah. But then if you combine all the movies and the TV series that were lackluster, after that up until now, you can count more than 5, maybe maybe even closer, more to 10. I mean, you look at was that Elementals, the
Internals,
and whatchamacallit, the last Ant-Man movie, the last Doctor Strange movie, and then you start going in the TV series and stuff. It's like, yeah, it's just kind of, we've been talking about for a while, Kyle, like, what direction are they going in? I mean, they make these announcements for these upcoming Avenger films and stuff like that, and now it's like, it looks like Fantastic Four is in jeopardy right now. It's just, yes, it maybe it is too much, but it's also a lack of writing and good writing and direction as well. It almost felt like they were just throwing stuff on the wall to see if it sticks or not, and then going with whether it's possible. And part of these issues too, you could also throw at Star Wars. Book of Boba Fett and Obi-Wan, yeah. These series that are just kind of like, but yeah, I think it's a combination of not just too much, but not good enough quality as well. But I think too much can be too much, because people going to the theater for these films, they're going, now, wait a minute, I got to go watch how many Disney Plus series to know what's going on. That's another problem there too. Like my friend Cheryl Hills, it's just too much. You lose track of it. And then, because before it was just all movies, Kyle, there's nowhere else you would see anything MCU.
So I think there's there's a combination of a couple of things here, because I go back to the early Disney Plus when Disney Plus first launched, and we got like Falcon and the Winter Soldier and WandaVision and Loki. Now, you and I have Loki was pretty much universally loved. You and I wasn't our favorite piece of show for other reasons, but I think those three shows still felt like they were part of the Marvel universe and had that quality level to them.
WandaVision was not a good start with. That got weird. Let's be honest. WandaVision was not. A lot of people were like questioning that right out the bat. I think Falcon and the Winter Soldier was better. Probably should have started with that personally, but WandaVision was a really weird thing to do, especially the way they started it.
Okay, but I know there were a lot of people who liked the change of something with WandaVision, but the other aspect of it too was, I think their phase 4 plans got really shifted around because of COVID and a lot of other things. But I also think again that they got so wrapped up in getting content out, and I think the other thing that is happening within fandom, and I think this is across the board, is people are just over everything being interconnected, having to see every movie, having 18 different spin-offs on streaming services, whether it's Marvel, Star Wars, even other franchises. It's become too much, and I think Marvel would be very smart to at least do some standalone stuff. Kind of Moon Knight was kind of standalone, but unfortunately Moon Knight, I think, really got put out way too fast. I think there was a lot more work they should have done with that and refined it some more. And I think that is I think there's a going on with what Iger's point is that there needs to be a reassessment across the board at Disney about how much they put out, when they put it out, and how much they're expecting from the fans to follow. And
yeah. There was one comment that one of my friends made on that post when they shared that article. And I think there's a lot of people in this boat. My friend Greg Hoder said, I honestly have no desire to go to the theater anymore. I watch everything on an app at home. And I think there's a lot of people in his camp that we need to consider when it comes to an Iger comment like this. That, a lot of people, and COVID has a lot to do with it because everything went to streaming. And I know there's a lot of people that love watching stuff at home and getting across that way. Now, you and I, we're theater people. We love the theater going experience, and that I will always feel. I will always be drawn to the theater. But there's a lot of people like Greg that don't have that itch anymore. My dad stopped going to the movies. He used to do it once a week, So I think there's something with that as well. I think that making streaming available in all these video apps and stuff like that has changed the course of how people get their entertainment.
I agree, and I think we're still in this very morphic phase of how we get our entertainment between how everything going in streaming and now what's going on in Hollywood right now. I don't think we're even close to what is going to be the next phase of how we get our entertainment. And I think there's a lot of things being worked out. So it's going to be very interesting the direction it's going to go. But I feel confident in saying, at least on the Marvel side and the Disney side, I think especially on Marvel, once we get past Echo getting released, you're going to see a complete reshuffling of the deck, and you're going to see some projects probably announced as being stopped, and that they're going to slimline it down again for quality over quantity.
Echo is the one they're releasing all at once for the first time ever in any Disney Plus series. They're not doing it weekly. What does that tell you?
I think that tells me too that Echo is kind of the end of the Chapek era of release stuff, and I think that's where Iger's just feeling like, okay, this is the point where I can really start fresh with Feige and get this, try to see if we can get the ship righted. So it's going to be an interesting time when that comes up. But guys, it is time to phase shift. And let's talk about the most recent episode of Secret Invasion. But first, that is right. We are going to be diving deep into Secret Invasion episode 4, Beloved. And what? Short episode, but I think there was a lot that happened in this episode, Kevin. So would you be so kind as to give us the plot description for
Of course. All right. So Gaia recovers from her wound, having previously used Gravik's machine to empower herself with Extremis DNA. She reunites with Talos, reveals that he plans to ask the United States President Ritson to help the Skrulls after they successfully stop the rebels, which disappoints her. Priscilla meets with Rhodes, who is revealed to be a disguised Skrull. As the latter instructs her to kill Fury, through both of them are unaware that Fury is listening in on their conversation. Fury later confronts Priscilla over her allegiance, but they make amends after she reveals she took an oath on her human counterpart to never harm her lover. Fury visits the fake Rhodes and shares a drink with him, which acts as a liquid tracker. Fury and Talos then follow him as he goes to pick up Ritson. Gravik and the Skrull rebels attack Ritson's convoy under the guise of Russian terrorists. With the aid of the British Army, Fury and Talos extract an unconscious Ritson. As Fury escapes with Ritson, Gravik kills Talos.
A lot happened in a short episode this week, Kevin, because the runtime on this was it like, I believe it was like barely 40 minutes on the runtime for this week's episode,
including the long credits. Yeah, it's like 38 minutes or something. Yeah.
So what were your first initial reactions on this episode?
Short. Some action and stuff, but I just had questions about some of the characters, and yay, they kill another important person. And Colby Smothers still gets credit for being shot because she's shown in a video being killed again. And I'm like, great, reminding me of another character they killed. You know, the thing that saved this episode, and as you know, that I've been underwhelmed with this series thus far because of the direction that it's going, was, you know, you throw in a really good action piece, which was a really good action piece with attacking the president's convoy, and Fury, you know, with Talos trying to stop them, and Talos gets shot. But then I have questions about some of the scenes between Fury and his so-called Skrull wife, and what's going on with her and you know, Skrull Rhodey, and you know, Rhodey being a Skrull. Apparently a female Skrull is pretending to be him. So yeah, I got questions and concerns still, you know. It's probably the best episode.
Yeah, no, I would agree.
Because of the action scene, but I have an issue with the dialogue as well.
So yeah, I agree with you. This is my favorite episode of the series. The action scene was actually finally giving me it gave me a lot of that Winter Soldier vibe of some of the action scenes in Winter Soldier. I thought it was done very well. I actually liked a lot of the conversation pieces. I love the scene between Fury and Priscilla. I love the scene between Fury and Rhodey. I'm gonna be honest with you, but there's still a lot of up and down in this episode as well. I think there were some reveals that were very obvious. There's some things that happened that weren't shocking, even though they were intending to be shocking. So I think this series is still kind of not 100% there, and I don't think it's ever going to get there personally. But I do think this was definitely the best episode. I want to address the Maria Hill thing real quick because I saw something online and I went back and investigated it myself because I saw somebody post online where in episode 1 in the chess scene where they're playing chess, she calls him Nick, and she does. Now, we've known that's been a trigger for other things. So is this a trigger that maybe there was...
Normally she says Fury, right? In the past, yeah.
Yeah. So is there a trigger? Maybe Fury had an idea of what was going on, or Maria Hill might have, and they planted to Skrull Maria Hill. I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there. Something, again, I'm going to get to that in a moment, to the Easter.
If she continues to get credit in the credits, then she's coming back.
Well, you have to understand too, if they use her image at all, she has to be put in the credits.
I get that. So there's hope. I don't know.
Yeah. So, Kevin, let me ask you this. And so you said you had some questions. Let's address some of those questions. See if we can't clear a few of them
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were going to start with one of them. So yeah, okay. Okay, so the whole scene face off between Fury and his so-called Skrull wife, there was a lot of double talk, not like meaning like they were saying a lot, but they weren't saying anything. Do you know what I mean, Kyle? And she's talking about, why she took the uh, the the shape of the woman that she did because she was dying, and then the dying woman made a said, hey, if you're gonna do this, do this. I'm just not buying this weird marriage relationship between this woman and Fury. It just and they go to the flashbacks like in Paris, and that doesn't help me either. I just I mean, he's had reasons to be suspicious of her from day one, especially since he bugged her with that meeting with now we know Skrull Rhodey. And then Skrull Rhodey's another thing too. I'll get into that later, but I'm just not buying. I was hoping that the relationship was more pure, and it just doesn't feel like they actually have a real relationship. So it's tying his relationship to the Skrulls and that he gets involved with someone, but maybe it's just the whole espionage thing. You can never really trust whoever you love. I don't know. I'm just not buying whatever is going on there, and I think that it's the lack of direct conversation between them. Do you know what I mean? It's always like this weird, like they're not really saying much. Am I making sense on this, Kyle?
Yeah, you are, and
Let me put it this way: if this was a Hallmark movie, there would be better intentions on how they really feel about each other. Let's put it that way.
okay. Well, and okay, so we're gonna dive into some of this aspect a little bit later, but I want to say this as far as that goes, because this is kind of my interpretation of it, and you're looking at I think you're trying to look at it through a little bit of the Hallmark lens there. I
Don't
think
say it like that, Kyle. I was just making a joke. I was just saying.
okay.
I was just saying that whatever relationship they have, I'm not bought into it, and I need. I've seen nothing so far of why they're a couple that makes me feel like there's something genuine there. I'm just not
Because
buying it.
well, and I think the reason why people aren't buying it in this aspect, and I think it does tie in a little bit storyline wise. He was blipped out for 5 years. He comes back and he immediately goes out into space for how long that time frame is. It's obviously a few years. There's a distance and a disconnect between them now that didn't exist before, and they've changed as people. And yes, there's probably still there's underlying feelings there, but they've changed as people. Plus, they're both spies. It's not easy. I am
I
sure it's not
I
easy
guess
for
I'm
them to just
having no. I get that. I get that, but whatever flashbacks they've shown to show the origin of the relationship hasn't shown me enough that they were something that they met each other as much as they did before they started having the problems. That's my point, so I don't know. It's just one of the things with this show. I'm just not. It's bugging me. So
no.
she's probably going to get killed too, so whatever.
Okay. Well, let's talk about our good friends over at Den of Geek, Kevin. Got another article by Kristen Howard. I took an excerpt from this because it was a short episode. A lot of the article was just going over what happened in the episode, but I took this out as the pertinent point in that from the article. It's hard to know where the series is going from here. There are 2 episodes left of Secret Invasion, and Nick still has to do something to stop Gravik's faction, get the president to safety, maybe tell him what the hell is going on, and potentially make good on his promise to find 1 million Skrulls a new home. Since it's currently unclear whether this year's The Marvels, in which Samuel L. Jackson will reprise his role as Fury, is a prequel to Secret Invasion or not, we don't know if this marks the true end of Fury's time in the MCU, but it feels unlikely. Jackson always seems to be having so much fun making these things, and it would be a shame if Marvel killed off yet another great character here. 3/4 of these episodes have ended in a shocking death. And though I was sad to see Talos die, I did kind of sit there afterwards thinking, Was there no other way to make us care what happens next? For a series sold as a big deal for the MCU, Secret Invasion hasn't exactly been must-see TV thus far, and its twists have been signposted with a heavy hand. Here's hoping the final 2 episodes take all the slow burn energy and finally make a real fire. So I think she said Kristen sums up a lot of what all people are thinking, and I know that this show was a big plan for the MCU. In fact, there's an article that was leaking out yesterday that said this show had a budget of over $200 million. I'd like to know where that $200 million went, but what are you thinking of what Kristen has to say here, Kevin?
She's pretty much spot on. I mean, the killing of people. Okay, so we get Guy is alive. We get that. All right, fine. But now you're killing Talos off, Ben Mendelsohn, who has been, in my opinion, the best part of this TV series. His character is the one that I've been only attached to, because Fury has seen off. I haven't really seen the Fury that I really like to see. So I don't know. It is yeah. I mean, well, you're basically making, if you're spending that amount of money on this, is basically a movie budget. You're looking at maybe a 4.5 hour movie if you put everything together and you take out all the separate credits, I guess. So I don't know. Yeah, it is. It's it hasn't been must see TV, as she says, and it's something that I was excited about because I was curious, but the execution has not been there, and the buildup has just been too slow. This episode right here, episode 4, this should have been episode 2. I don't know. It's just, I don't know what they're going to do in the last 2 episodes to salvage this series. I don't know.
So here's one of the things for me. You talked about how this should have been episode 2. My feeling is this is what they should have done here is there was no reason not to combine this into the end of episode 3 and made episode 3 a bit extended. I would have been fine with that, because then you could have just basically filmed a whole another episode that gave you more time to do something with it and maybe build the world and the story a little bit more, because episode 2 was only like 40 minutes. This was only 37 minutes. You could
see, Olivia Colman could have been in this episode too, her character, especially if he's working with the British, right?
Yeah, I mean, I honestly, the impression I got was the reinforcements that showed up could have been sent by Olivia Colman's character.
Yeah, and usually a good villain too, you feel like you can sympathize with him. Gravik is, I have no sympathy for Gravik. There's nothing that Gravik has done to make me feel why he's turning the way he is and he wants to take over Earth.
Well, I think too. Let me get into this point now, because before we get into our next phase, one of the things that this show is doing, and I'm not saying it's a good thing, I'm just saying this is what I see it doing, is it's playing too cutesy with itself, and it's trying to, I think, kind of out spy game itself, in that it's not being as obvious with the viewers. On one hand, it is. In certain aspects, it's being too obvious. Like Gaia surviving, that was way too obvious. Rhodey ending up being a Skrull. They dropped those hints pretty loudly throughout. But there's a lot of underlying things here too that they're expecting people, I think, to pick up on, but they're making it so tucked in the corners, or so, like you've talked about, double talk and things like that, that unless you're just sitting there completely focused on the episode, you can't really flesh it out. And the problem is with all
that. Even no, hold on. I'm focusing on the episode. There's just there's still the double talk. There's they're not saying everything that they could be saying when it comes to certain dialogue. Like I said, the most frustrating parts of this is the one-on-ones. It's just the only person who seems to be really saying something of when they say something, you understand what they mean is Talos, and now he's dead.
Well, what I was going to say with the double talk though is because people are just getting so lost within the double talk, they're losing focus on the episode. How they're writing it is taking people's focus off the episode, because they're like, what the hell is going on? And so I think they've out-cutesed themselves with some of the spice. spy stuff and thinking, okay, everybody's in on the spy game when they're not.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so I think they've overwrote this series so far. It's the best way I can, especially on the dialogue side. So with that though, let's kick into phase 2. We got a little bit of Easter eggs this week, Kevin. Short episode, not a ton of trivia, but Gravik is Groot. In in this episode, we see that Gravik has another new set of powers as he is using powers based by Groot. In that big climax of this episode, Gravik uses his newfound powers to grab a secret service agent and kill him. Gravik used Groot's tree roots to reach out and grab the agent, squeezing him to death. Now, what we obviously knew this was coming. We had this conversation. One thing I do want to point out here that I liked what they did in the visual effects of this, Kevin. Instead of having Gravik just be stretchy, like oh okay, he can stretch like Groot stretches. He actually has the tree root thing going on, and it's more reflective that he did pull it from Groot. And I actually like that VFX decision instead of just trying. Oh, we're just going to make him stretchy. And I think that was actually a smart move by the VFX department here.
There was reference to this in an earlier episode of other powers or other aliens that they'd gotten samples from or something, if I remember right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it was in episode 2 where you see where they were on the computer screen, they had Groot, um, Cole Obsidian, and the Frost Beast, and then on the other screen was the soldier who had Extremis.
Right, yeah. I wasn't expecting that. I thought it was kind of weird, but curious what else he's injected himself with.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's good for a body to be injecting yourself with a bunch of other different DNAs, but we'll see how they play that out. But like I said, I did like the fact that how they did it with the VFX instead of just making him stretchy.
Yeah, it was a good idea to expose that power though in front of everyone else. That's what I'm kind of curious about. They're disguising themselves as Russian terrorists. But yeah, that's interesting.
Another one is I got my own ride. Quoting from Fury in this episode, I got my own ride. Fury confidently boasts as he escorts the president to safety. A few moments earlier, Fury and Talos retreated into this vehicle, revealing an impressive array of tech as a slew of weaponry is unsheathed from the trunk. This calls back to, of course, one of the most exciting sequences in the MCU history, which Fury is hunted down to almost certain death in Captain America: The Winter Soldier, narrowly escaping thanks to the tech of his vehicle. In that scene, in the same scene in Secret Invasion, also features Fury firing a projectile at a helicopter hovering above, taking it out by aiming with his one good eye. You remember Fury in a strikingly similar act in 2012's The Avengers when Fury fires a shoulder-mounted weapon at a rogue Berg attempting to take delivery a nuclear weapon to New York City. This was the first time, Kevin, that I really felt like in this action sequence we got some of that Winter Soldier vibe we were kind of hoping for from this entire series. This was a really good action sequence, and how I was definitely getting the vibe of that car chase from Winter Soldier when Fury shows up in this vehicle and starts doing all these things with this vehicle.
Yeah, we're starting. This is where we're starting to feel like we are getting the Fury that we're used to getting. And it helps when you give him some action scenes because Samuel Jackson knows how to do those. And I just thought it was a weird weapon choice though when he grabs those shotguns and not some like automatic weapon. I just thought that was kind of a weird choice. But I like the rocket when he takes out the helicopter. That was pretty cool.
The fun thing about there's a few things about the scene while we're talking about too that I want to bring up, and actually one of them is actually a fun moment that happens right before this scene happens when the president calls out Rhodey for his drink, scroll Rhodey on the drinking.
Yeah.
I thought that was actually a funny little scene that they did there. But I'm gonna say this, Kevin, in this scene, worst Secret Service agents ever. Because they just leave the president hanging in that car. Nobody's even rushing over to try to get to him until Fury shows up. I thought the priority for the Secret Service was the president, not necessarily fighting off the aliens.
Yeah, I guess because the writing of the action scene called for it, but that was a little weird. Yeah, you gotta protect him and get him to cover as soon as possible. From what I've learned from watching too much TV and movies.
And then the other scene that was in there is in the middle of that battle. The Skrull Rhodey is still sitting in that car, and he's just kind of bebopping out while everybody else is fighting around him.
Yeah, he's just waiting for things to. Yeah, it was interesting how he didn't get out to do anything, which I found interesting. Yeah.
So just fun. I think it was the best. I think it's honestly been the best scene that we've had in the series so far. So hopefully we're going to build on that for the rest of the way. But let's phase shift one more time. Let's get into some of the bigger plot points. Okay, phase three. We talked about this a little bit earlier in the relationship with Fury and his wife, or as Fury says, I'm not sure if this means we should get divorced or we should renew our vows. Now, Kevin, you said earlier you're just not buying into this at all. You're not.
I'm not invested in this relationship. The flashbacks aren't doing it justice. I get the blip and him serving time on the space station maybe put strain on the relationship, but I'm really not caring about this relationship. I'm not bought into it. And now there's a distrust because she's also, I guess, a spy and talking with Skrull Rhodey and stuff. But the flashbacks just weren't doing it for me. I'm sorry. I want to, and
Well,
I like this actress, but the way things ended after them shooting and deliberately missing each other, I don't know. I just don't care. I'm
see, and
trying. I'm
yeah,
trying.
no, I understand and where you're coming from. There's a few things from what I pulled out of this from watching this, and it does tie into the flashback. One, having seen Fury listening in on the conversation, I think that's also kind of a key that yes, Fury's kind of getting back locked in, and we're starting to get him back on track. That he's wising up again to the game, and once he hears the conversation and really knows what's going on. When they have the confrontation back at their home, I think there's something very what I like about it is yes, there's a lot, and I'll be first. You're kind of both using double entendres and kind of doing a little spy speak with each other because they both know she's realized that Fury has discovered what's going on and what the plan is, and Fury, of course, feeling a sense of betrayal here as well. But then you go back to the flashback, especially that was earlier on when they're talking about the poem and how she wants to be known. The poem talks about wanting to be known as beloved, and then she talks about the whole conversation of why she chose that face, what was going on there. And I think I will say this: I think that is the first moment in there when they have the conversation of why she chose that face and how her third promise was she would never hurt the one she loved to take
They
that face.
should have shown that in a flashback to make us care. We're only going on her word here. And the fact that he's questioning that now when that should have been one of the first questions in the beginning of the relationship.
Well, somehow I don't think Nick Fury is probably the best at being in a relationship anyway. but
Uh,
but I did think that was actually the first time we saw a really true emotional moment between them, and I think it did add for me at least it did add some to the scene. Then the fact that they both shot at each other and kind of intentionally missed the point. I think the point of that was to show that the emotions are still there for each other. And then when Fury basically tells her, "You didn't do because you didn't do this. Everybody's going to be coming for you." So the question is that is this the last we've seen her? I don't think so. I think she'll be back in this in some point or another. It. I honestly did think the next shot we were going to see was probably Fury had killed her, but I'm actually glad they didn't do that because I think I've talked to some other people who feel like, oh, it should have been Fury killing her. That would have brought Fury all the way back, and I'm like, I don't think so because I think this is still an evolving and different Nick Fury that we're looking at here, and it's character growth. I think too. We still need to have Fury have a few allies out there. So
I have thoughts on that later.
Okay. But I think I'm not quite as not interested in it as, or not connected to it as you seem to be. That just hasn't pulled you in. There's some aspects of it that have, but it still needs more work. I have no problem admitting to that. But the next thing that I want to talk about, Kevin, and this is something that this is bothering me immensely, is this. That death. Well, that death didn't last long. We see at the beginning of the episode, Gaia having injected herself with Extremis. So we pull back. She's coming back to life, being healed by the Extremis in the episode. I want to deal with that first because her getting shot at the end of episode 3 had zero weight for me, because I was already in the mindset there's no way they are killing off Amelia Clarke halfway through this series when they've really barely done anything with her character.
You could say the same thing for Talos. The series isn't even over yet.
Yeah, well, and we're going to get to that, but then you add on to me what should have been a much more emotional scene when she is healed and she goes and meets with her father, Talos, and they have the conversation. There was no emotion in that conversation. I didn't feel any real connection between Talos and Gaia in that conversation. It just,
well,
I felt more. I'll be honest.
I felt it a little bit with Talos because he was trying to connect with his daughter, but Gaia wasn't having it. She's like, no, I'm not sure what she's planning on doing. He wants to, talk to the president and get help. And then she's just like, no, I have my own path. What path is that? What does she want to do?
And I think that's what we've got to get revealed. And I think what she's realizing is that neither her father's path or Gravik's path is the right path in her mind.
Yeah.
But
I don't know. There's just, I don't understand why she isn't wanting to work more closely with her father. I mean, he's been trying to open up with her, and yet she just got shot by Gravik. You think this scene would have been more like, let's work together, Dad. No? What's going on? I don't understand that. She just got shot by Gravik, who she was following and helping with until she noticed something wrong, and everything should have been cemented when he left her for dead. And this scene right here, why isn't this okay? Let's work together, father-daughter situation.
because,
what does she want? What does she want? I was confused by this.
Well, I think in this aspect, from just my interpretation with Gravik, she's done with Gravik. I think she was always kind of helping her father because she wasn't never fully 100% in on Gravik. But I still think there's resentment towards her father because of what happened to her mother here. And I don't think just Gravik shooting her has healed that wound. So she's going through her own on her own path, and we'll see how that plays out. But I think again, this comes back to something that is going on with this show, is that they're not being clear enough with their writing. The writing is not fully fleshed out enough to really give you definition of reasons. Because I can even roll with the aspect of her not wanting to necessarily side with her father after Gravik shoots her because of how she feels towards her father and how she feels now towards Gravik. Maybe she's feeling a little bit betrayed by everybody, so it's like, fine, I'm doing it my way. Right. I can roll with that part of it, but they're not fleshing it out well enough, and they're not communicating it and expressing it well enough within the writing of the dialogue.
Yeah.
So that brings us to our next question. I had a little fun with this one. So who is Rhodey? Where is Rhodey? And when is Rhodey? As the great Drax would ask. So Kevin, in this case, we know that Rhodey is for sure a Skrull. Nick confronted him after getting the confirmation of this, and what I thought was a fun little scene, and I love how Nick is able to get him tricked with the nano trackers. Don Cheadle and Sam Jackson look like they were just having fun playing this scene. I'm going to be honest with you there. It's just like, I wonder how much of this was ad-libbed and how much of this was straight dialogue, because they're bouncing off of each other so quick in this scene. and it's just these two amazing actors working together.
Okay, just to clarify, the scene that you have the picture up is from a previous episode, but the scene you're referring to is when he comes to his house and breaks into his house to talk to him after we've confirmed that Rhodey was taking a shower as a Skrull, right?
Yeah, and of
This
course,
this scene here is when the previous episode or two episodes where he goes, even when I'm out, I'm in. That's this scene here. But this
yeah,
isn't the scene of them talking where he breaks into Rhodey's house.
correct. Of course, and then we get the reveal. Of course, we see Rhodey, the Skrull, in her normal form, which, they're Skrulls. They can shapeshift. They can take on any form they like. It's not purely all. If it's a female character, it has to be a female Skrull. That's the Skrulls just are universal shapeshifters like that. But I love the vibe of that scene. I love the vibe of the scene from episode 2 that we had the image of as well, Kevin. Those two actors just working off of each other is a joy to watch.
Yeah.
So now, as far there's a few questions though that with this. So because Kevin Feige even addressed this after the episode came out, and he has said this is not the first time we're seeing Skrull Rhodey. So the question is so when did Skrull Rhodey take over? Where is the real Rhodey? Because I think this plays up into a lot of things that could be happening in the future Armor Wars project that Marvel has coming up. Because I think it's going to be very key, and I hope they reveal this before the show is out. Of when
I assume he's hooked up to one of those machines.
That's what I'm assuming too.
He's been captured and he's been hooked up, and a Skrull has taken his place. I'm guessing.
Yeah, I'm guessing, but I think the bigger question, Kevin, is when did it happen?
Yeah, obviously before this series set. So,
because I mean, we could, if you go by what Kevin Feige put out on the internet, there's a chance that the Rhodey that we saw in Avengers: Infinity War and Endgame could have been Skrull Rhodey.
No, I'm not buying that. No, not the way he acted. No, like I said, there was a shift in his demeanor when he became, in charge of whatever he's in charge of, and he's an advisor to the president. I'm not buying that. Maybe we'll get that in a flashback, but
my guess is it's going to be something that happened after Endgame, and because I was trying to think back to other appearances Rhodey's been in.
Hold on. So if that's the case, Kyle, then that means the Rhodey that was at that very moving scene at Stark's funeral, that means that was a Skrull. I'm not buying that.
Yeah. No. Well, and what I was going to say is, I think that the event, the switch, does take place, in my personal opinion, after Endgame. But I think the first time we see Skrull Rhodey is the first time we see Rhodey since Endgame, which was in Captain America and the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, when he's talking with Sam and he's kind of moved up the ranks there. I think that might be where Feige is referring to. Is like, okay, that was Skrull Rhodey there.
Just say what you mean, Feige. Just let us know.
He doesn't want to spoil. If they're going to reveal it in the show, he's not going to spoil that before they reveal it. So
yeah, whatever.
And then Kevin, you brought up this point earlier. Okay, is Talos really dead? This show has given us death after death after death, and we're questioning all of them, even the Maria Hill, which right now is still the leading candidate to be the most real death. Ben Mendelsohn, for a lot of people, has been the star of this series. Taking him out of the mix, I think, would be a drastic mistake. But yeah, I think because of what they've done with the series and false deaths and left turns and right turns, if this really is a death of Talos, they really did it a disservice, because I think they took away a lot of the emotional weight of it.
This is what I was going to refer to earlier. The thing that this show is horribly missing, and I think I made a comparison to what they did right, obviously, when it comes to the Winter Soldier movie, was that you had people to play off of each other. You had a team. You had, in that movie, The Winter Soldier, you had Steve and the Black Widow doing stuff together. You you had these moments of them working together. And if Maria Hill was with Fury and didn't die right away, I think the show would have been a lot stronger, because then they could have worked off each other. And where's all the other Avengers that are still around? Where's all the other new Avengers they could have brought into this to help, whether it's Hawkeye or something to come in and connect the rest of the MCU to this series. That's what you need to do. And having Fury just be alone in this whole situation, and then you have Talos, who is the closest thing to family with him, because I'm not buying the wife family thing. I think he's closer to Talos than he is his wife, to be honest with you. The moments they've shared together meant more to me. And then you kill off Talos now. Oh, Jesus Christ. I don't know what they're trying to do. That was a disappointment. I'll be honest with you. I don't know where they're planning on going in the next episode. If you have Talos dead, you have Maria Hill dead, and then you have a disgruntled Gaia that wants whatever the hell she wants, So I don't know. I just don't know.
No, I think that boils it down to the problem a lot of people are having with this series is that they don't know the direction. The show feels a little bit directionless, I think, for a lot of people, and it's causing people to check out. And I mean, I just in our show today, I can feel it with you. You're pretty much checked out.
Yeah. I'm sorry, Marvel, but I'm checking out of this. I'm going to continue watching these last 2 episodes because I'm curious to see where it's going to go. But my rewatchability of this series is probably not going to happen.
So I just want to make the point of it too with Talos' death. If they would have handled certain aspects of this show differently, it would make more sense. It would be emotionally impactful, and you could roll with it because of Talos' history of Fury that was already established in Captain Marvel, and not only in Captain Marvel, but in Spider-Man Far From Home, where he actually impersonates Fury in that film, and we learned the reason why. So I think that they could have played it more, but because of decisions that have been made and how they've executed other things in this show, it's just taken away that emotional punch that moment should have had. And there's one other thing that I get it within the moment, but it still seems weird to me, and I think it's going to be something that plays out in the next episode, is that Fury leaves Talos on the battlefield with all these human soldiers. So my question is going to be this. I mean, so now we have an alien known on the battlefield. Fury has obviously done the decision of, I've got to protect the president above all else. So he's done that. Are we going to have play up on the fact that, okay, now we have this supposedly alien body. Are we going to see something with maybe Sonya Fallsworth recovering the body to keep the secret? Sonya Fallsworth. Because with the British,
is that the Olivia Colman character?
Yeah, the Olivia Colman character. Yeah. Are we going to see something where Gaia goes to recover her father's body, something like that? I hope this isn't left as a dangling plot thread.
Right. It's a good point. Like, whoa, there's an alien here, especially when one soldier calls him out when he's trying to break open the window to rescue the president. He's like, he's an alien. And then, Fury has to say, no, he's with me.
Yeah. So with that, we got one more phase shift for you. We've got 2 episodes left of Secret Invasion, Kevin, and I know that you're feeling pretty disconnected, pretty checked out. Let me ask you this. Instead of asking what do you think is going to happen, tell me something that you feel should happen that could get you somewhat reinvested into the show, or at least make it feel like this show would be worth your while.
I really don't know at this time because I don't know what the hell they're trying to do with this show. I really, really, really don't. I guess bring some familiarity to the MCU. Get Nick some help from some allies that we already know. These are the people that we care about and we've been invested with. These are the people that we are connected to. Him doing it all alone can't be this. He needs some help. Because the fact that this is a big deal, million scrolls. Now they're in the they're within the United States government. This is a big deal. You'd think more people of the MCU characters that we've been introduced with, that we love and care about, would be connected to this. I mean, you know who should make an appearance in this is Sam. I mean, he's got a movie coming out. Bring in the new Captain America. What the hell? Bring in Bucky. I don't see that happening, but that's what should have happened. I don't know, dude. I really don't.
So, thinking
What about
about
you?
this.
What about you? You answer your own question. I'm kind of curious to see what you have to say.
Okay, so this is kind of me projecting what I think could happen in these last two episodes, and a couple of things I think if they go in this direction, I think it could solidify it because I know what else is knowing what else is coming. But what if it were me writing these last two episodes, this is the direction I would probably go in. I think I keep Talos dead because I think that could be something that would get Gaia and Fury on the same page with and with the plan of going to where they have all the humans that they're impersonating kidnapped, destroying that facility, and by destroying that facility and breaking those connections that the scrolls who they're impersonating have with those characters through that device, causes the scrolls to reveal themselves, which just completely destroys Gravik's plans, which also then leads to a confrontation between Gravik and Fury, and then I would think Fury's wife maybe ends up getting involved somehow with that. I also wouldn't be surprised too to find out Maria Hill is still alive, that it was either a scroll or something else was going on, and she's been working behind the scenes, which Maria Hill they've used very often within the MCU where we don't see it on screen, but Maria Hill has been doing stuff behind the scenes. She shows up and has something in the grand storyline to defeat Gravik and his group. I also think that the other thing that would be key is I think we definitely need a moment where when they rescue Rhodey, the ramifications of that, because there's three things that I think the events of this show are going to tie into that are still confirmed in the future of the Marvel Universe. I think events with this that happen will tie into Captain America Brave New World, especially with the presidential situation with Ritson and the political game, because of finding out scrolls are in there, the political ramifications of that, I think will play a lot into Captain America Brave New World, as long as with some of the political things that were left over from Black Panther, the last Black Panther film as well, with Val and a lot of things there. It's also going to lead to the Thunderbolts, which I think once there's the reveal of the scrolls is going to really tip the creation of the Thunderbolts. We've been seeing it hinted at a little bit within Black Widow, within Falcon and the Winter Soldier, a few other things. We're going to see the scrolls and Secret Invasion be the reason why we get the Thunderbolts. And finally, Armor Wars, which is the Don Cheadle was supposed to be a Disney Plus show. They're changing it to a movie. I think that he's going to find out that Skrull Rhodey did some things that he's got to correct, and that's going to be the main plot thread for the Armor Wars film that is coming.
It's asking a lot.
I know it's asking a lot, but
you only got two episodes left.
Well, I think some of the connection tie-ins, they don't have to be big moments to those films. They just have to give us a scene of each to kind of lead us into those directions. Whether they do that or not, and again, whatever, this is just all speculation on my part.
The way things are going to, Kyle, with this series, I honestly think we could see the death of Fury himself at the end of the series.
I think it's a possibility, and I don't think Sam Jackson's ready for that, and I don't see them doing it. But again, part of this is when does the Marvels take place? We don't know.
Yeah, it probably takes place before this. That would be my guess, because he's still on the space station, right?
Yeah.
So it's just, I don't know. It's funny because like you know what I'm missing in this series, honestly, is I'm missing the Joe and Anthony Russo influence as well. You know, and like I was watching The Gray Man yesterday, and then I was thinking of the other films that they've done in the MCU. I'm kind of missing that type of feel, because they did Winter Soldier and of course Endgames and stuff like that. But I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, we've got 2 episodes. We'll see how it plays out. With that too, a possible change in our scheduling. Real other events do pop in our lives. There's a chance that we will either have 2 final episodes of True Believers covering each episode of Secret Invasion, or we will do a combo episode of 5 and 6 of True
I
Believers
will
covering.
not be here next week. I'll be at
Yeah,
Comic-Con.
exactly. See, Kevin's going to do fun stuff. So but you know what? I'm excited for you. I'm actually very curious too, Kevin. Kind of get a report from you, considering all the ramifications of what's going on and what the energy is like going to be like at this year's Comic Con.
You
So,
gonna say why?
well, because of obviously everything that's going on in Hollywood between the writer's strike and the actor's strike.
There you go. Yeah.
And
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, obviously conventions aren't being canceled, but it is affecting appearances and participation of actors when it comes to promoting whatever they're supposed to be promoting. So yeah, it'll be interesting.
yeah, there's been a lot of panels being canceled from what I've seen the
Yeah,
last couple of
I'm
days.
going there to support GI Joe. That's why I'm going there. So my GI Joe uh, um, garrison here in Southern California is going to be helping out with the Hasbro booth and the Super 7 the pop-up store, doing costume fun GI Joe stuff. So yeah,
That's going to be a lot of fun for you. I'm excited for you, my friend.
looking forward to it.
Well, it is time to wrap things up and get moving on. But of course, you're watching True Believers. If you're watching on our YouTube channel, thank you so much for watching. And please remember to like, subscribe, and share with your friends as we continue to try to grow our YouTube presence. Of course, if you're listening audio, thank you as well for listening to that. You're listening on our master feed at pnet.podbean.com or on one of the many podcast catchers you can find the Fandom Podcast Network, whether it's iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, or so many others. Of course, you can also follow us on our True Believers Facebook group page. Join the group. We try to keep you updated on all the happenings of the MCU. There we have a lot of fun. Or follow go to the Fandom Podcast Network's main Facebook page where we keep you covered in all the things that are going on in fandom. And yeah, it might get a little sparse here, but we still got some things coming out for the rest of this year that are going to be fun to talk about. Of course, you can email us directly at fandompodcastnetwork@gmail.com. You can find us on Instagram at Fandom Podcast Network or on Twitter at FanPod Network. I'm Kyle. You can follow me on Twitter at AKyleW or on Instagram at AKyleFandom or on Threads at AKyleFandom. Kevin, where can people find you on socials?
You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and Threads at Spartan_Phoenix.
Of course, too, there's a couple great ways you can help support the Fandom Podcast Network as well. Go to our TeePublic store, tpublic.com, search for the Fandom Podcast Network. We have all the logos and gear of all of our great shows. We love your support. All the funds from that go right back into the podcast network so we can continue to make great podcasts to feed your ears. And of course, we love reviews, especially on iTunes. Leave us your reviews, leave us your thoughts. Not only does it help us get recognized, but it helps us to improve ourselves and make better podcasts for you as we always strive to do here. But again, thank you to you, Kevin. Have a great time at San Diego Comic-Con. I'm looking forward to hearing about your experience there. Hopefully Secret Invasion can turn it around enough for you to feel like it was at least worth watching.
I know I've been down on this thing, and I'm just trying to be honest, and I know I'm not the only fan showing frustration for what's been happening, and I really hope this show turns it around. I just hate, it seems like every time things aren't going the way we want on a show, and we know that there's only 1 or 2 episodes left, we always say, let's hope they can turn it around. How many times have we said that in the era of Disney Plus streaming, Kyle?
I think it's in the era of streaming in general, and I think we've talked about this on Culture Class and several other shows. I still don't think writers in the United that write for these U.S. shows have gotten adjusted to the shorter episode format. And and I think it's still one of the issues that's hanging out there. But we'll see what happens. It's going to be an interesting ride the rest of the way for Secret Invasion, whether it's good, bad, or otherwise. We won't know until we watch it. But until next time, as always, Excelsior to all you true believers out there. And as always, make ours Marvel.